From what you were hearing, Roberto, from Mike, what was the stumbling block to moving him? Would it be length of contract, term, trade, anything?
My contract sucks. That's what's the problem is, and fortunately, it's a big factor in trading me, and it's probably why I'm still here.
What's hard about your contract?
Welcome to Rogers Arena at trade deadline day on what was not quite as eventful as we thought it was going to be. The big story here, of course, was Roberto Luongo leaving the ice surface just before practice ended, and a lot of us, of course, were wondering, had the Vancouver Canucks actually traded their netminer? Of course, we know now that they haven't, and that was the big story that was percolating today. We're going to talk a little bit first about Derek Roy, the center that the Canucks needed to acquire at the trade deadline. We all know that there was this big need for a third-line center who could possibly eat up some second-line minutes. And getting him yesterday, Derek Roy, who has a playoff pedigree, who's played for Dallas, who played all those years in Buffalo, it finally gives the Canucks a playmaking center. He's small, but he knows how to move the puck. And I think what's really important here is with him in the lineup now, and he's going to play with Higgins and Hansen, and the fact that Ryan Kessler is probably maybe a couple of weeks away from coming back, you get those two players back in the lineup, and perhaps the Canucks can start to force the issue again. They're playing defensive hockey. They're relying totally on their goaltending. They're creating nothing with one of the worst power plays in the league that was ranked dead last. They need to get that flip that switch. They need to get back to the kind of hockey where they draw penalties, where they're more creative on the power play, where they're drawing penalties and actually doing something with the power play. Maybe some baby steps were taken in that regard today. Derek Roy's a pretty good playmaker. Ryan Kessler back in a couple of weeks. But let's get back to Roberto Luongo. You know, this situation was probably not going to resolve itself at the trade deadline. Mike Gillis was telling us they had several scenarios, talking to as many as 4 or 5 teams in the last weeks, and certainly in the last 6 months.
Well, we've had discussions with 5 teams over the past 6 months, and this has been a very difficult year for everybody because of the lockout. There's been changes to the CBA which affect these situations, so there's, you know, it isn't like when we signed the contract. There's been significant changes in how they're dealt with.
Trying to resolve this, really a mismanaged goaltending situation. A lot of it has to do with the marketplace. A lot of it had to do with having 2 goaltenders here at training camp. A suitor like the Toronto Maple Leafs getting off to a good start, having 2 capable netminers. And of course, we all thought that maybe today Mika Kiprusoff might be going to Toronto. Now he's elected to play out his contract and retire. Ben Bishop goes to Tampa Bay. That eliminated another possible destination. So what the Canucks have today is what they had all along. They've got 2 goaltenders capable of sharing the crease. And Roberto Luongo was very emotional today. Yeah, he admitted that his contract, quote-unquote, sucks. He'd love to rip it up and do it again because it's not always about the money. It's about playing. And right now it's keeping Roberto Luongo from playing in the NHL is his contract. But from the collective, from a team perspective, they do have that postseason insurance. Should Corey Schneider get injured, they've got a guy who's been there who can do it. And as far as the team is concerned, they believe they have enough pieces in place. They tried hard for Ryan Clough. They didn't get him. On another level, they did try for Raffi Torres as well. But they have to be of the mind that they have enough pieces in place in a conference that's going to be extremely difficult, with Marian Gaborik landing in Columbus today and Jason Pominville in Minnesota. So it's going to be a tough sledding for the Canucks, but they've been playing tight defensive hockey all along to win some games. Now they've got to flip that switch and play some offense.